I'm here with Lynne Suprock, who has brought these amazing floating balls. They're just so cool, Lynne.
I know, we're gonna learn how to make them today, so I'm really excited to get started.
And what inspired you?
These balls, I've been in gift stores and I've seen beautiful glass balls, but I was really inspired by the Chihuly. Dale Chihuly is a glass artist, and people probably have seen his work at botanical gardens and such, and so that's the inspiration for these balls. Of course, they're not blown glass. We're gonna make them really simple. Anybody can make them with just a few products.
Cool,
so.
Let's do it.
All right, so first of all, we have a modeling compound that does become waterproof. It air dries in 24 hours, so that's a perfect media to use. And it gets a little sticky, so you're gonna wanna use some gloves. And it comes in 2 parts, and they're equal parts that you would use. And to make it a little easier to get out, you would use these scoops, or whatever you would have.
Ice cream scoops.
That's what they look like. And actually, they probably are used for ice cream at
well,
some
not
point.
after you've touched them with art supplies.
That's right. After we use them,
yes.
no ice cream.
Yes.
So we're going to, if you have spoons that you use, dedicate them to part A and part B, of course, because you don't want to mix them.
And this helps you get even amounts of clay, I assume.
Right. On my spoon, I could kind of tell how much I got, and this is a little forgiving, so you don't need the exact measurement like you do with some resins or some other compounds. So I have 2 equal parts of
Forgiving
this.
works for me. That's my style. I like things that are
and
forgiving.
Perfection is overrated.
Exactly.
So I'm going to take this compound and I'm going to mix it so the color becomes uniform. So,
so someone once told me with all these, 2-part modeling clays and stuff like that, that one of the things is they make them 2 different colors on purpose so that you can tell when they're mixed. Because if they were both the same color, you would never know.
You would never know, and then it needs to be mixed to set up. There's a little bit of a heat reaction that occurs. And
I was going to say, is there a reason you're doing it in your hands as opposed to,
And it kind of helps it with the molding process. So once I have this piece, I'm going to break a little off just to demonstrate the topper we're going to add onto the ball, and that makes it float.
Well, how did you get to the ball?
Well, I have this styrofoam piece, which you can find at any craft store, and what you want to do with that is just cover that with this modeling compound. And as I work this...
So you're not rolling it in, like my natural inclination, having worked with like polymer and stuff, is to roll it out with a roller. You're just doing it in your hands.
You're doing it with your hand because it sticks really well. As soon as you use this, it's very sticky. If you let it sit for an hour, it's less sticky, and some people prefer that so it doesn't stick to their gloves.
So here's my next question, which is I see you have a small piece on that ball.
Right.
Could you do several small pieces, or do you only want to do one large sheet?
That's the ticket. We're going to do several small pieces. And we're going to have this little piece that I saved for the end to make a topper, because you want to either hang this or have an area of the ball that will turn under in the water and give some weight. So I just make it twisted.
So the topper's not just decorative, it's actually practical too.
It is practical, but it also kind of looks nice. And I just cut up these straws so it air dries, and then you have a nice piece.
So here's another clay question, because I've worked with traditional clay as well. You just sort of push that on. You didn't do any scoring, and you didn't even really try to and that's okay, it's gonna stick.
It's gonna stick, and as you put the several parts on, you just blend them with your hand. And at the end, you'll have a piece that has a little bit of divot, and you'll see some of the marks from my gloves. That's all right, that gives dimension, and actually when you add the alcohol ink that we're gonna use, and if you add the resin at the end, it gives interest. So here's a dry piece already to take out this, and I'm going to do a first level of color.
So how long does it take to dry? Because I know you said that you could still work with it in an hour.
Right.
So
24 hours is hard. So whenever it's air dried, it's usually 8 hours, it's pretty firm. You can't mold it.
And obviously it's a round object. So when you're drying it, do you rotate it as you're drying it so that it doesn't flatten, or that doesn't happen?
It hasn't seemed to happen. There might be a little, like again, it blends in with the divots that you already have. So that's another reason why you don't want to have it perfectly smooth.
Now I assume the reason you put a styrofoam ball inside is so that it stays light. So because obviously if you used it just as a dense ball, it'd be really heavy and it might not float.
Right.
So how thin a layer are you putting on, do you think?
You flatten it out as a pancake. I would say maybe a quarter, maybe a little thicker. This isn't very heavy stuff if you want to just hold it. It's pretty
Oh,
light.
yeah.
So it really doesn't matter if it's a little thicker or a little thinner. So that works.
Cool.
Okay. We're ready to go on to this
Yeah.
step, and this is the coloring step. So I'm going to use the ball that's already dry, and I'm going to add a little bit of alcohol in a container, and I'll have a sponge of it.
So you have plain alcohol
Just
in there. It's not
plain
water.
alcohol. No, it's rubbing alcohol. I use 91% because the 91% alcohol evaporates quicker.
And that's something you can just buy at the drugstore, right?
You can just get it on the shelf. And so I'm going to take it and just rub the ball.
I can smell the alcohol. I feel like I'm at the doctor's office about to get a shot.
Sorry.
I'm getting scared.
Well, alcohol doesn't have a scent, but it goes away pretty fast. And then I'm just going to drip my color and then blend it in with the alcohol.
So the alcohol is what allows you to do that blending. If you just put the color on without the alcohol, would it move around? What would happen?
You would have more of a mottled, purposeful effect.
Okay.
So, you have to rub it around somehow, and if you didn't have it, see how dark that would become?
I see.
So you want this like ombre really, really light, and I'll move on to the next phase here, which is one that was already done.
Okay.
And a little bit of a boo-boo here, something dripped from another alcohol container, but
No
that's okay.
mistakes. Just creative opportunities.
That's perfect. So we're just going to then do our final coloring phase of this. And this is the fun part. I love this canned air. So whatever
Not just for cleaning your keyboard.
No, I love it in mixed media. It's so neat to use. So I'm going to do the same thing where I have in this container rubbing alcohol. And only this time I'm going to use it as like a dilutant.
So you have a pipette there, just a plastic pipette.
It's a plastic pipette. I find that's easier to control the alcohol.
Okay.
Again, you could order these or get these at a drugstore. I
love shopping in unconventional places for art supplies.
That's usually at the drugstore or at the
hardware store,
So
at the
I'm going
grocery
to
store.
add my purple onto this already covered ombre ball, and then I'm going to add a drop of alcohol or two. And you see how that starts to move. And now I'm going to just help it along.
For people who aren't familiar with alcohol ink, what are some of the special properties and why you've chosen it instead of paint?
It can be thin with alcohol. I think it gives a more vibrant color. It moves so much easier across the ball, basically like very thin water, or with the alcohol, it's even maybe thinner than water. I don't know, chemical properties, but it gives
I was going to say, it also looks so much like watercolor, and yet it's permanent.
It is permanent, and that's the other thing. It's going to be covered in another layer of resin, so there will be permanency because of that. But this really does not come off with water. You can remove it again if you rub it with alcohol. And how many of us, carry that around or have that on our hands? So chances are that we're not going to rub off that color. So that's kind of the idea of what we do. And then over here we have
Can we do one more color?
Sure. What color would you like?
How about the pinkish color?
Okay.
May I blow the air at it? Is that okay?
Oh, yeah.
I just want to have some of the fun.
That's the ticket. Oh my gosh, I know. I made it look so much fun. Okay, now
Okay.
Just a little bit.
I'm trigger happy. I'm not gonna lie.
And if you've got girlfriends over, you don't want to.
I feel like kids would love to do this. I feel like
supervised.
Yes,
sure.
Yes, supervised.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like I've had my fun. We can move on.
All right. Well, then that's perfect. So then the next phase, which is the last phase and an easy phase as well, we're going to protect this nice color forever and ever and ever. And this two-part resin will do the trick. And it also is waterproof and it lasts forever. So all those are coated in the resin. And I will just take, this is also fun, okay? You like to finger paint, right?
And resin is similar, right? You need to mix the two parts.
Yes, of course. You have part A and part B on this resin. And it's an epoxy resin. So it will dry hard, and in 24 hours, you'll have this crystal clear layer. But there's one thing I want to say about this. It's going to stick to anything that you would put on it to dry it. So I use a little plastic wrap on an S-hook, and that works perfectly for me to then dangle it right on a stick.
That's your drying rack.
Coffee can.
Clever.
Recycling. And then the very last thing, you have to keep watching this for maybe an hour.
Okay.
And come back every 20 minutes, and then look at the bottom, because this resin will kind of pool to the bottom, and you don't want that at the end. So you would just dab it with your
Paper towel or something like that.
Or just use your rubber gloves.
Okay,
Yeah.
to make sure that it gets a nice, neat look.
Yes, and it's nice and clear all the way around and there's no drippy. So.
Okay, and I can obviously see that whatever size ball you can get at the craft store,
right?
That's how big you can make it. Because there, as you promised, this is right at the bottom.
Right, that's the weight. Or if you decide you don't have a pond, you don't want anything in the water, just hang them from your trees. They look really cool as well.
It's like a way of having Christmas year-round, actually.
Correct. The rain won't bother them either, or the snow.
Oh, that's so great. Lynne, this was so much fun, and I got to play with some spray air.
You sure did. Did well.